What is happening, people? Welcome back to another Scarfy Spurs Talk episode. In this episode, we'll be previewing Chelsea, our next game, because it feels like a while since Spurs have last played. We'll also be discussing the news with Spurs' financial results have been released for the year June 2024. So that'll be really interesting to get into that and Levy's very long and quite, interesting statement, I think it's fair to say, directed towards the fans, little swipes in there. So we'll get into it with today's panel. So let's introduce them. As always, the legend himself, Billie T. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, man. Good to be back. It's been a while. It's been a break, man. Nice to meet Elijah and Conn as well. Good to see you again, JJ. Good to see you again, Harry.
Yeah, always good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. Justin, welcome back on. Obviously, can't be discussing a loss because there's no Spurs.
No, and so I obviously when you were messaging him about shows are coming on, I could imagine the reason you were doing it was more looking at the fixtures and thinking it's more like we will lose at that one, so I'll try and get him on for this. So I was quite surprised you didn't come up with an excuse for me not to come on. So no, thank you for having me on, especially when that Spurs haven't lost yet. I don't know what it feels like, to be honest.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you're wearing an England top there. I'm surprised that you didn't curse them as well, but not at the moment. And thank you so much for coming on. Elijah, your debut on the podcast. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm sure that will, I'll get rid of the nerves as the time goes on. I haven't really streamed with anyone here, so nice to meet all of you guys. Hopefully we'll have a great stream, and thanks again, Harry, for having me on.
No problem at all. Yeah, you're going to smash it. So thanks so much for coming on. Want to introduce as well Chelsea content creator Conn. I've done different bits with him in the past, been on Spaces, maybe a Chelsea fan, but one of the more sensible ones. How you doing, Conn?
Thank you for that, bro. Pleasure to be on.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so much for coming on. It should be a good game and it should be a good show as well tonight. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening live on YouTube, you're listening, on major podcast platforms. It's available on all major podcast platforms. Please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Check out our sponsor in the Kitman. So let's crack straight into it. Big news today. I think we've got to discuss it, and it's Spurs' financial results. So Spurs declare a decreased revenue of 528.2 million for 2023-24. That's down by 4%. Profit from operations increased to 144.9 million. Loss after tax, again, is 26.2 million, but this has been decreased. And then Levy put out a massive statement, as he always does. So let's go through it. There's a lot to get, to dissect here. So here's his statement. He said, as we announce our financial results for the year to 30th of June 2024, we currently find ourselves in 14th position in the Premier League, navigating what has been a highly challenging season on the pitch. We are, however, in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Europa League. Winning this competition would see welcome silverware and would mean qualification for the UEFA Champions League. We must do everything we can to support the team in these final key stages. Since opening our new stadium in April 2019, we've invested over 700 million net in players. Recruitment remains a key focus. We must ensure that we have smart purchases within our financial means. I often read calls for us to spend more, given that we're ranked as the 9th richest club in the world. However, a closer examination of today's financial figures reveals that such spending must be sustainable in the long term and within our operating revenues. Our capacity to generate recurring revenues determines our spending power. We cannot spend what we do not have. We will not compromise the financial stability of this club. Indeed, our off-pitch revenues have significantly cemented the lower football revenues this year, testament to our devised income strategy. I want to thank everyone who supports us through good times and bad. We are resilient and passionate about our club. We should aim to finish the season as strongly as we can and continue to build for success on the pitch. Justin, kick us off. What do you make of that? There's a lot there, but I think the message from Levy is quite clear. It's a little bit of a dig at the fans, isn't it?
It's a massive dig at the fans. It really is. And look, the fans aren't naive. We don't sit there and think that we're just going to magically click our fingers and money's just going to be spent. I think the thing that fans are really frustrated about is the fact that we've heard statements like we got our Tottenham back and you know, all these other things that have come out from, you know, Levy, the board and things like that. And then, you know, we then sort of, when you start going into the nitty gritty of it, you know, we're meant to be one of these so-called big six clubs. And to be honest, the way we're going is we're not even going to do that. And there's things we've heard like about like the stadium being a game changer, right? Well, since we've been in the stadium, and if you look at the comparison before we were in the stadium in the few years beforehand, and then obviously going into it, we were regularly getting into the Champions League, right? Now we're 14th. We have just been on such a decline from that point. We've gone through multiple managers, multiple regime change, things like that. And it's almost as if when you read that statement, you think, at what point do you take accountability for that? You know, we know that we're not going to be able to compete with the likes of City, you know, in terms of their spending, you know, but when your revenue streams are higher than, you know, other clubs within that top six, and also, you know, around us, and then you're seeing the likes of, you know, I heard that Newcastle are now up to our level, and people will turn around with that argument and go, well, they've got the richest owners as well, but they can't spend it. It's done on PSR. It's got nothing to do with that. So when you see Newcastle do that, and as we all saw, you know, the scenes and the jubilation that it brought for Newcastle fans to win the Carabao Cup, it doesn't mean that to the Tottenham club. It doesn't mean that to the Tottenham board, because in one breath we hear about the fact that our revenue's down by 4%. Well, hang on a minute, we stripped the wages down by 12%. So are we doing good? Are we not? And it just feels like we support Tottenham for the wrong reasons. You know, we're a football club that we all go to, or we watch on the telly, or we follow it however we choose to, and we follow it on the basis that we want success, we want to see the trophies. You know, we remember, you know, we idolize the days of, you know, and I know none of us were probably here to see it, but like in the 60s when we won the Premier, or not the Premier League, but we won the title back then, and we won the European Cup, or UEFA Cup, or no, so was it the UEFA Cup or Conference Cup in the 80s, and then the FA Cup in the 90s? You know, we remember all of those things. But it just feels like we're at a point now that we've got this shiny stadium, we've got this shiny training ground, we've got all these other bits that go with it. And it's like we should be grateful for what we had. And I've heard the argument about, you know, because there's people been saying about the fact of, yeah, but if you weren't in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you wouldn't be able to compete with that lot. Well, we are in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we still don't compete with them, you know, because we have the money, we have the capability. You know, we have one of the lowest wage bills in the Premier League. And just sort of wrapping up, you know, when you look at the failures that he talks about the disappointments and things, you know, the revenues are down, the team's not performing well. You then have to start turning it back to Daniel Levy and going, well, where is your, you know, acknowledgement of your failings within that? Because you've hired these multiple managers, you've sacked these multiple managers, you've turned around and changed tune. He's done it mid-Postecoglou. You know, he brought in the players he wanted and then decided, well, actually, what I want to do is bring in a whole load of kids that you're going to have to bed in. And as we've seen, we barely see Mikey Moore. We barely see, you know, some of the others. Archie Gray, I think, played in midfield once. And yet, what we also know is that Daniel Levy is the highest paid, in effect, director of any of the Premier League clubs. He's double our nearest rival. And so one of the things that I found really disappointing with that statement and going against the figures is the fact that it's the fans are being ignorant to what there is, but there's no accountability from his side. And when we all know that there is a protest planned, if anybody was sat on the fence about that protest, I don't see how they can be now, because he's clearly shown that there isn't this will to compete with, you know, the top six, right? But we want to do it, or how do I put it? We want to compete with the top six, but we don't want to do it in the way that everybody else does it. We want to do it in this magical way that we bring through these youngsters and they all come through and what have you. But, you know, for someone who knows heavily about finances, he's completely ignorant to the fact the reason the top six is the top six because they pay the highest wages. So I just found it baffling. I had to read it like 2-3 times because I thought, is he seriously trying to antagonize the fans with something like this, which it clearly shows he is, and clearly what any fan that was sitting there and expecting the stadium to be a game changer, all these other things that they thought would change, it ain't going to. What we're going to see is what under this ownership, under this leadership, it will not change. It will be younger players, cheaper prices, cheaper wages, and expect somebody to pull miracles out of their backside to make them compete for things that they won't win. Simple as that.
No, thank you, Justin. I think as fans, we've been quite patient this year behind Postecoglou and the team and behind everything that's happened at the club. So I felt like that's why it was interesting, to say the least, after it's been an embarrassing season with all teams. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Justin,
as well,
with the new stadium.
What's
You sold the
what's
dream.
more frustrating is the fact that not only has it been embarrassing, but the glaring omissions that everybody else has been able to see, and the lack of urgency to address those issues that you've turned around and said you are going to back this manager. Well, you haven't this year, really. You've left it until the last minute with things. You've left him short on multiple occasions. You've not given him enough for him to work within his system. And the medical team, as has been proven by Richarlison and Romero, is absolutely awful. So, you know, you're tying this man's tying his hands behind his back and expecting him to perform miracles. You know, I do feel sorry for him because under this setup, he isn't the right man for the job. Simple as that.
Thank you. Billy, where do you and Change for Tottenham stand on Levy's statement? But also, do you agree with Justin that this just gives people more of a reason, surely, to support the protest against Southampton?
Yeah, it's been the best bit of publicising the protest we could have asked for, to be honest. I haven't seen fans online this angry about anything for a while. I think, you know, fans have been enjoying the international break. The protest has been picking up leverage. And then all of a sudden, a bombshell dropped today, which has gone sort of beyond our wildest dreams. People are angry, man. People are angry. And it just speaks to how tone deaf. Like, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Change for Tottenham because we do have some guys that are proper into finance. You know, I have next to no knowledge of finances whatsoever. What I do have knowledge of is, you know, the football club, Tottenham Hotspur, and the fans. And to me, in that aspect of it, that PR statement that we got from Daniel Levy, I can speak about the statement. I can't really speak about the numbers as much, but it's unbelievably tone deaf, I think. And Justin just absolutely nailed it, to be honest. There's not really much more to add to that. But in terms of the statement, like, there's no admission of any kind of like or culpability of Daniel Levy whatsoever. There's no acknowledgement of the fact that, you know, this is one of our worst seasons in recent memory, and we probably need to change something to adjust in accordance to that. Instead, it's more of the lines of, this is what you're going to get from now on. Stop moaning about it and enjoy it, which I think is an absolutely ridiculous sort of avenue to go down as a chairman, to be honest. I just think it's incredibly, incredibly tone deaf. And on a personal level, I was really, really disappointed by it. I think, you know, at the moment, whether the stuff the fans have been treated with this season is, you know, beyond bad and beyond unacceptable. And the fact that he's basically saying, people keep saying we need to spend more. I mean, it's obvious that we need to spend more. And what I think is quite funny as well is that he keeps mentioning the decreased football revenues. The reason why the football revenues have decreased is because we're terrible. And we get knocked out of the cups. We're not going as long in the Champions League. We're not finishing the top four. Our league position is getting lower. So it's all kind of, you know, they're all symptoms of his poor ownership in the first place. But there's no. It would have been quite easy to come out and just say, we've got this massively wrong this season. We're going to do everything we can to affect that, and we're really sorry. But instead, he's kind of blaming the fans, saying, you keep asking us to spend more, but it's not going to happen. Shut up and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wrong. So wrong. I mean, you say there that, you know, disappointed, but I think you can agree, not surprised. And that's the problem I think we find ourselves in, accepting that. Elijah, come to you. Maybe playing devil's advocate a little bit. Do you think Levy has a point regarding spending cautiously, or is it just more excuses to what could be another dry summer ahead?
You know what, Levy's statement, like when you read it out, it just sounded like the perfect rage bait. That's what it sounded like. I'll be so real. It sounded like a random Twitter comment designed just for interactions. That was pretty much what it was. Because the perfect rage bait is to always leave out in all context and just say a plain fact so people will get mad over it. And that's pretty much what his statement was. I mean, yeah, he spent 700 million. It's factually true. But taking away all the context out of it in terms of who we've spent the money on and the people he's put in charge to take care of those kind of things. I mean, if when you put Lange in charge, I mean, he's gonna get it wrong. Okay, he did it at Villa. It's one of those things. So yeah, a lot of facts, I guess, in quotation marks, because they are facts technically, but when you really put into context why we're in the position we're in, a lot of it falls back to the ownership. So yeah, technically we're in the quarterfinals of Europa League. Yes, technically it's been the worst season. You want to finish strongly, but let's not act like you're not the reason we're in this situation. Like, let's be real. Like, whether Ange is the right man, I don't want to take it to a manager thing, but whether Ange is the right man or not is being nullified by the fact that you've done a terrible job in supporting this manager. Like, just keeping him employed isn't really supporting him. So we're not going to be able to really see the players shine. We're not going to be able to see the manager shine. We're not going to be able to see this club shine because they're just stifling it at every opportunity, to be honest. But that's pretty much what I took from it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much. Conn, I'm going to bring you in on this one as a little bit of, kind of an outsider in this, interested to get your thoughts, different perspective. What do you make of, maybe the way that Spurs are run, the statement you hear there, but also do you think generally that Ange Postecoglou's been backed by Daniel Levy?
I think it's just a common thing with Spurs you've seen over the years. You just don't really invest in the first team. And I remember you guys under Poch when, you guys looked really good. And you were so close. You just needed a few more additions, a bit of seriousness from the upstairs, and you never got it. And then the excuse, from an outsider's point of view, was the stadium, right? And now you guys got the stadium, and you're still kind of doing the same thing. And you have brought in some good players, like you have Romero. I think that was a good signing. I think Solanke was very good. I think he's top. But it's just not enough. You can't bring in an Archie Gray and then expect him to play across the whole back line. Like, it's craziness. So for a top six club, with the stadium you have as well, it's probably the best stadium in the country. And the revenue you guys bring in now, it's just, I can see why you guys dislike Daniel Levy. If he was at Chelsea, trust me, he would go down poorly because we don't like our owners, but at least our owners spend. Whereas I'm watching Tottenham and you guys have no centre-backs for the majority of the season. You're linked with like the Sassy in January. Like a guy Chelsea don't even want. Like, are you serious? And then you bring in someone like Tell to be the saviour of the season. No disrespect to Tell because he's a great young talent, but at the same time, I do feel for you. I know obviously I'm a Chelsea fan, you guys are Spurs, but I just don't like when the upstairs is don't run football clubs properly. That's what it looks like it's going on with Spurs.
Yeah, there you go. I think Spurs fans, there you go. You've heard it from a Chelsea fan. I think again hits the nail on the head. Conn, sticking with you though, and focusing on Chelsea, your side. What have you made of kind of the job that Bowley and the Chelsea board I want to say done, but are doing at the moment? Because you mentioned there's some discontent among Chelsea fans, and it's evident, especially on social media. How do you view it from your personal opinion?
I think the intent's there, but I think the plan's all wrong. Because if you've seen Chelsea, obviously have the youngest average side in the league. And I think you guys have seen that this season as well with some of the players you brought in about the youngsters. And you do need experience around them, right? And we have none of that. We have none. And obviously we started the season very well. But you can see the lack of experience in this team. We can't hold out wins these days. Fulham was winning at the 80th minute. We lose 2-1 at home. Why? Because we don't know how to see out games. We're too young and we spend a lot of money. And I don't know if you guys saw today, we made a profit this year because we sold the women's team to ourselves.
I mean, you guys made, isn't it like £130 million profit or something like that?
Yeah, 134 mil profit because we sold the women's team to ourselves. And like last year, it was the hotels we sold to ourselves, right? So they have no issue with spending money, but they just spend it horribly. And you look at Chelsea's squad, there's so many gaps there. Like Nicholas Jackson is still our starting striker, and I like Jackson. But that's not good enough after 3 years of being here. You spent over $1 billion and Jackson's just starting striker. And then who's deputing him? What, Mark Gee? a 19-year-old from La Masa. Come on, man, let's be serious here. So, yeah, they think this young, experienced thing's going to work. I think they need to tinker the model. You see a player like Elise, who's having a fantastic season this season. You went to buy him. We didn't want to pay the wages. So, yeah, I'm not too pleased with my ownership at the moment.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Let's review both clubs' season before we get into, kind of the game itself, nitty gritty about it. And tell you what, Con, we'll stick with you and go with Chelsea because, you sit fourth in the Premier League with 49 points in a good position. I think, there's teams close behind you rather than, maybe closer in front, but still fourth position's quite pretty. What are your thoughts on your season so far at this point?
It's honestly been like a tale of two stories because at the start of the season, we were scoring goals for fun, picking up points, Conference League, rotating the team fully, having fun there, scoring for fun. And now for the last couple of months, I would argue we're probably the worst team in the league in terms of the football you watch. Just the only teams we can really beat is Southampton. We was the first loss to Ipswich at their home ground this season, and I'm really, really worried for top four. I think, top five this season, isn't it? But I don't see the Chelsea team getting Champions League with the fixtures we got. And I think that's a massive failure. The money you spend, and it's the third season without Champions League football, I think is an utter disgrace. And I'm really scared. And even the Conference League, you'd think it's an hour long for Chelsea, but I'm going into that worried now because it's that bad. That's how fragile we look. And we have all our players back now. We got Wes Fofana back. We have Reece James. He's played for England, scored a great free kick. He's back and fit. We have Lavia back, but this guy plays one game, then he's out for the next 4 months. We got Noni back, Jackson back. So we've got quite a fit and healthy squad, but I'm really worried, man, Harry. I really am worried.
If people didn't know, you would have thought you're talking about Spurs, and then talking about player and Latvia who plays one game, you would have thought it'd been Richarlison. So with Spurs and Chelsea, two similar stories, I think there. But Con, last kind of couple of things. What have you made of Maresca? Because he's come under fire, isn't he, a little bit recently? Some people saying one-dimensional, and he's kind of found out, I think, as the season kind of went on at the very end with Leicester. Do you think that's the same now? Has he been found out for his tactics? Is he showing that adaptability?
Yeah, Maresca is definitely a massive talking point in the fan base. There's a lot of people don't like him, and a lot of people love him. There's like Marmite, I guess. For me, I think the last couple of months has been extremely poor. I think it's been extremely poor. Sometimes he just needs to be less stubborn. Like, for instance, I don't know about you guys, but I think Reece James, when fit, is the best right back in world football, or at least top three, right? And he's saying he's a midfielder. Yeah. And he's telling me that Reece James is a midfielder. Like, are we being serious here? We spent over 100 million on Enzo, 100 million on Casado. We spent nearly 60 million on Lavia. And we're talking about Reece James being a midfielder. Bear in mind that we only have Malo Gusto, Reece James, and Mark Corella for fullbacks. So if Reece James gets injured, because he's notorious known for getting injured, that leaves us Malo Gusto, who gets injured a lot as well, and barely any fullbacks. So, and also the wingers as well, not having overlapping fullbacks is hard, especially when you come against those low blocks. So they're always 2v1. I don't know. I think he's been quite stubborn, and you're seeing a similar pattern, I guess, what you saw at Leicester. The first half was very good. The second half is a bit meh, and it's going to be a real struggle for us. But I suppose he can show his worth at the end of the season because you get Champions League football, despite the injuries you've had, despite the massive blip you've had. It shows some character. So I can't really speak too much until the end of the season.
Okay. Thank you. And last but not least, having watched Chelsea, kind of a few times this year, I think for me anyway, I get the impression that you're very heavily reliant on Palmer, and obviously he's taken a dip in form, hasn't he, recently? Do you think that's part of the reason maybe you're struggling, or is Palmer struggling because the team's struggling? Which way does it kind of work?
I think it's a bit of both, I think when obviously Palmer's not on it, Chelsea are not on it because Cole Palmer is that good, right? He's fantastic. But I think with Noni and Jackson both being out, that hurts them a lot because the chemistry they have, the synergy they have on the pitch, those three together is really good. And obviously when Cole Palmer's not scoring, who is for Chelsea? Because obviously Jackson's been out, but before he went out, he went 9 games without a goal. So our wingers, you look at Pedro Neto, Jadon Sancho, they're not goal-scoring wingers, Noni is probably our highest goal scoring winger we have, and he got injured. So if Cole Palmer's not performing, you look at that Chelsea squad, where do the goals come from? And it's a hard place to see, So we've seen that now. And I worry about him a little bit because he looked very, very fatigued. And obviously we had Shell Felix in the summer who was meant to come in and replace Palmer when obviously he's injured or fatigued. He went on loan. So, it's all a bit crazy at Chelsea. But if Chelsea's going to get Champions League, it's going to be because Palmer's played a massive part in that. So I still have faith in the boy. I think he's arguably top 3 players in the league.
Okay, thank you very much. Justin, what have you made of Chelsea this year and bits you've seen of them throughout the year?
Yeah, I think it is quite an interesting one, really, because obviously Chelsea went quietly along their business. They were doing okay. You sort of sensed, and there has almost been parallels to Leicester last year and Chelsea this year, where they started really, really well. They were really dominant, going forward. And then there was almost the interview that I just couldn't get my head around more than anything else when he turned around and said, "We're not title contenders. We're just going to, do what we can do and we'll go from there. But we are not in a title race." And I just sat there and I thought, why would you do that? When you're in that position, surely you want to pick up your team to say this team is good enough. We're in this position because we should be in that position, and that's where we want to be. And then, sure enough, the performances dipped. We then started seeing further cracks in terms of, as Conn said, about Reece James being played in midfield, which I thought was bonkers. Talking about the goalkeepers and turning around and saying they're not good enough, and that if they boot the ball long, that he will sub them. All these other things that we've just seen come out, and you're just like, you've gone from such a strong position, in the league and potentially trying to put yourself in that mix with Arsenal and Liverpool. And then obviously we've seen them dominate, in the Conference League. But it's just that feeling that I don't really know what good looks like in terms of Maresca, because it's almost as if he doesn't know what good looks like. It's almost a case of it doesn't matter so much about winning the title or winning the trophies and things like that. It's almost a case of similar to us, as long as they're generating the revenue. If we can get into the top 4, stay in the top 4, obviously that will generate more money, because we're seeing, a lot of the signings that are being made, and they're being made for quite a lot of money. And a bit like some of ours, they're younger players for the future that potentially have a decent sell-on value. So it's almost a case of, you do tend to worry a little bit with where Chelsea stand with all of this, because is it a case of this guy is here to oversee a building of the future and taking Chelsea to the next level, or is he a corporate puppet who is basically given the instruction of get into the top 4 with what you've got, make us as much money as we can so we can then continue to generate regular revenue streams for the club? I think because obviously they, from what I've seen, I know there's been talk of Battersea Power Station, I think it was, or other places that they could potentially move into. But it's almost as if they don't really want to look at that further. And obviously it hasn't helped in terms of with Todd Bowley and obviously Clear Lake in terms of disputes. And there's just certain bits like I think was it Bowley's part of a company that, can get tickets and sell them on for extortionate amounts of money to make more profit for themselves. So it's almost a club that has gone from where they were under Abramovich to where they are now. And there isn't really an identity of what good looks like. So I think if they get into the top 4, it'll be good, but it'll just be really interesting to see where it comes next, particularly for Maresca in all this, because if he doesn't think they're going to be in a title race now, I'm not sure the club are going to spend what they need to get them there.
That's interesting. Thank you, Justin. Conn, what do you make of that?
No, I think he speaks a lot of sense. And do you know what's frustrating about Chelsea? Because obviously in your neck of the woods is that you don't spend enough. We spend a lot of money. If you look at the money Chelsea spend, we spend a lot. I think if you guys saw it only a few weeks ago, we spent 70 mil for the summer on 2 youngsters. The Sporting guys, the winger and the midfielder, right? We spent nearly 70 mil on those 2. and they're going to be for the future. And that's what Chelsea do. We buy for the future. We don't buy for the now. And that's our issue. So we will spend in the summer, no doubt. But will it be what's needed to, seriously challenge Liverpool and Arsenal's next season? I doubt it, Whereas, Arsenal looking at Gyökeres, we missed out on Osimhen on the last day of the transfer deal. We're looking at Delap. And I like Delap. I think he's good. But Jackson, Delap, come on, let's be serious. Is that going to win you a league title? Of course it's not. They're too young. They're too raw. You need that senior, striker there. And that's why I'm kind of jealous of you guys a little bit in Solanke, because I think he's fantastic. So,
yeah, there you go. Credit to Solanke for that one. Let's move on to Spurs and our season. It's been discussed plenty of times, but I think we can all definitely go over it again. Billy, if we win the Europa League, does that save our season and save Andrew's job? Surely it does.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, it does. I mean, that'll be like one of the best. Well, maybe even the best Spurs moment in my lifetime. I've seen one trophy in the last 17 years, so I'm certainly not going to complain at winning a trophy, especially a European trophy. If you compare it to a club like Chelsea, that unfortunately, as painful it is, like consistently win trophies, it would certainly be a good start for us. We do need to win, and I'm definitely not going to turn my nose up at winning the European trophy. It would be brilliant, but at the same time, you'd have to have serious concerns about where it leaves us next season. There's no way that we're ready to play Champions League football next season in this current guise. We would have to spend significantly to get anywhere near the level. We're 14th at the moment, and we look like it as well. It's not like we're in a false position. We're terrible. So I'd have concerns about next season, and what I really have concerns about as well is like the Ten Hag situation repeating itself, where they had to keep him because he won the FA Cup, and then it was obviously that he probably should have changed manager. I'm a big supporter of Ange, I have been, but I don't think it's going to work out here, man. I don't think it's going to work at all. So I'd have serious concerns about what would happen next season, but I've wanted the trophy so long that I couldn't care less about that in the long term. I'm just all about short-term success at the moment because my football club has starved me of it for 17 years. So, yeah, it would be the best season in my lifetime for a long time. So, yeah, bring it on if it does happen. I'm more worried about next season when it comes.
Yeah, good way to look at it. Cheers, Billy. Elijah, is it all about the Europa League now, from now to the end of the year? Park the league campaign aside because it's been disastrous.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it's been about the cups basically since the start of the season because we didn't do enough in the transfer window for us to really compete for any type of title. So it's really been about the cup competitions. And I mean, we went far in the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, basically our first game, we got knocked out. So it's really just the Europa League. That's pretty much it. And we've started to see it with Angie's finally starting to like rest players. We saw the Man City game. He dropped Kulu and dropped Spence and someone else. I forget. I think it was Son. And we're probably going to end up seeing against Southampton a lot of players dropped in preparation for the Frankfurt game because that's all we really got left. Like, it doesn't look like we're going to qualify for any type of. We don't have really an outside shot for European football. We're just too far behind the pack. We've got enough points to not get relegated. We don't even have to worry about that. So whether we finish 16th or 12th makes no difference. It's literally just the Europa League at this point. So yeah, I don't blame Ange. If he rest players against Chelsea and Southampton, I wouldn't be mad. I would completely understand it because Frankfurt is the game. It's not just a game, it's the game. So yeah, the Europa League is all we got, man. That's all we got.
Yeah, 100%. Sticking with you, Elijah, how much do you think of our kind of struggles this season? There's been plenty of them. How much of it is down to injuries?
Obviously, it's definitely a factor. One thing I will say though about the injuries is not even in terms of because I know people say, "Oh, Andrew created the injuries and stuff like that." That stuff it's not that I don't care about that stuff. It's just it's a lot of injuries. That's the main thing I will say. So obviously, when you don't have a lot of your players, you're gonna suffer and there's gonna be problems and stuff like that. I understand it. I think the main reason the season's gone the way it's gone is because of the way we play. Like realistically, I've never really been a fan of the tactics. I haven't really been one in my lifetime to complain about tactics too much as long as the results are there. But when the results aren't there, you have to start looking at like tactical breakdowns and maybe lineup choices and things like that, the way certain players perform. And all of that is under scrutiny because a lot of the players basically haven't been that good this year. The manager's tactics they've been consistent, which I respect him for because that's his style of play. But at the same time, it's almost like dying on his hill. And so it doesn't really make sense to die on your hill at Tottenham. Like, you might as well just try and adapt it a little bit. But I can't fault the man for doing what he knows best. Like, he's won titles in other countries doing this type of style. So I certainly can't fault him for not changing. But at the same time, it's not working. So if it's not going to work, then the season we have now is what happens. Ange likes to play high intensity. We end up getting a lot of injuries because of it. The injuries 100% play a factor. And of course, in an ideal world, we don't go through these injuries and we end up doing something. But I really feel like even if no one had gotten injured, we'd probably still be in the same kind of predicament. Not necessarily joint 16th or at least 14th on goal difference. We'd probably be a bit higher in the table. But in terms of being knocked out of the cups, in terms of not competing for the title, competing for a top 4 spot, I believe everything would kind of be pretty much the same, but slightly better. So I put it more down to the tactics more than the injuries.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we do sit 14th with 34 points and a plus 12 goal difference. I mean, that goal difference is getting smaller though. Still good for where we are, but it's just if you're just looking here, there's a serious possibility you finish 16th, even 17th if Wolves push on to the end of the year. Everton, West Ham behind on the same points. It isn't pretty at all. In fact, it's rather embarrassing. But Elijah, I know where Billy and Justin stand with Ange Postecoglou, but where do you stand at this moment in time? You talk about the tactics being the problem there.
Yeah. Well, I've been Ange out since the Tamworth game. I really tried to give this manager every kind of not excuse, because like there are actual legitimate reasons as to why he hasn't been successful at Tottenham so far. But what made me Ange out was that Tamworth game. I mean, apart from Werner and Mikey Moore, you have a starting caliber squad of players there. There's 9 first-team players there pretty much. And it takes bringing on Son and Kulu and Solanke and 100 minutes of football to score a goal. I mean, that's disgraceful, to be honest. It was horrible watching that game, and I felt nothing but depression. I'll be so real. And the reason why I harp on the tactics is because I believe Ange Ball, if he can start playing Ange Ball with every game, I wouldn't mind. But there's certain times where it won't work, which he needs to change it. And it doesn't have to be every game, but at least some games where he's going to have to adapt a little bit, and he doesn't do it. He's come out and said that he's not going to do it. At previous clubs, he came out and said he's not going to do it. So it means I've got to pretty much just judge him based on the tactics that I see, because he's already said he's not going to change it and we shouldn't expect it. Which, fair enough. He's a grown man. I mean, he's won titles doing these type of things. So I understand why he's doing it. It doesn't mean I agree, but I at least understand it. So I'm just going to judge him on the tactics that he has shown, because I don't expect him to change it. I don't think that those tactics are conducive of winning, pretty much. I don't think he can win consistently. I don't think he can compete for leagues, at least consistently. I don't think he can win a trophy playing this style of football only, which is why I just kind of let it go after the Tamworth game. Because if we can't beat Tamworth in 90 minutes, then I don't see how we'd win a trophy, to be honest. But hopefully he can prove me wrong.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you come across well there, got some good points. So thank you very much. Conn, where do you stand in terms of, again, as an outsider, Ange Postecoglou, do you think Spurs fans should be more patient? Should they get rid of him now? Should they get rid of him in the summer? What do you reckon?
I personally think he's a good manager, but I think he's at the wrong club. I think to manage at a club like Tottenham, you have to be adaptable, because you're not going to get the backing from the upper above, right? So you need to be adaptable, and he's anything but. And injuries happen with every team in the Premier League. And I know Spurs have had it a horrid time this season, especially in defence, right? So I sympathise with that. But you have to adapt. You can't just die on your sword, and that's what he's kind of done. And it's hard to get the backing when, you refuse to change and you're so stubborn, and, you just don't have the players to play your way. You have to be adaptable, especially at a club like Tottenham. And I think that's where Poch was so good, because he was so adaptable at Tottenham. Whereas this is my way of playing, and whether we finish 14th or 1st, this is how we're going to play. And I just don't think that's going to work at Tottenham. So I think he's a good manager, but I think it's the wrong club.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Move on to the game now. Chelsea versus Spurs. It's a Thursday game, 8 p.m. kickoff at Stamford Bridge. So, yeah, let's go through some general stats before we dive into it. So, top scorers for both clubs in the Premier League. Chelsea, Cole Palmer with 14 goals and 6 assists. Ours is James Maddison, actually, with 9 goals and 5 assists. Maddison's played 27 games in the Premier League for us. Palmer's played 28. This both out of 30. Chelsea have scored 8 goals in their last 5 matches and have won the previous 3 games against us. Cole Palmer is ranked 3rd in big chances created in the Premier League this season with 19. Spurs have scored 5 goals in the last 5 matches, but haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 matches, but average 1.9 goals per match. Both teams' form in the last 5 for Chelsea, they've won 4 out of their last 5, but losing last time out 1-0 against Arsenal. For Spurs, it's 3 defeats, 1 draw and 1 win in the last 5 in all competitions. Referee for this is Craig Pawson. This is Premier League round 30. Let's do a few more head-to-head stats. So between the two sides, in meetings, Chelsea have won 21 games. Spurs have won 6. 11 have been draws. At home, with Chelsea being at home at Stamford Bridge, we've only won there once. Chelsea have won 12 at home, 6 draws. And in the Premier League, home and away for both teams, Chelsea won 15, Spurs have won 5 and 9 draws. So our record in the Premier League is a little bit better than outside it before. But still, I think the message there is crystal clear that we don't do very well at Stamford Bridge, which kind of leads me on to my next point. Billy, how are you feeling ahead of this game?
I've rarely been less hopeful of a game in football in my life. I just there's almost no chance that we're going to get anything from this game. Purely,
I don't think I've helped there with the stats though.
No. We never get anything from this ground. I think he'll probably, I don't know, come back from an international break. He's probably going to try and sort of prioritize. He'll probably sort of prioritize the Southampton game because he needs to win that one, and I'm sure he will win that one. I think Chelsea is a bit like a free hit for us, unfortunately. It's just not a place that we turn up to. I think Postecoglou's lost every game he's played against Chelsea. And in fact, I think he's lost all the big London derbies that he comes against Arsenal and Chelsea. A couple of draws for him against Arsenal, maybe, but yeah, I'm not optimistic at all. We never turn up there, and we did under Poch a couple of times, but it's been a long time since that happened again. And I just think, like, the mentality of these games, like, we're just going to be focused on the Europa League. Like, I think we have a difficult job getting the players up for it. I think they'll probably treat it like a fitness exercise rather than a game of football that they want to win. I just think that all the motivation's kind of gone. I think the performance on Postecoglou have gone. If you did that Bournemouth game and the Fulham game, there was just nothing in them whatsoever. They were dreadful performances in the league. You might get a bit of motivation in the Europa League games because that's all we've got left. But yeah, I have no confidence going into this one whatsoever, I'm afraid.
You won't be the only one, so thank you, Billy. Justin, we're back in action. You tend to be quite, what's the word, negative, I suppose, going into games. How do you feel about this one, about having maybe your Thursday ruined again?
To be fair, it would only be ruined if I expected anything from it. If you look at some of the results we've had this year, teams have turned up, or we have allowed teams to turn up. I think Conn said it earlier about Chelsea's performances and their results. And obviously they've been very sort of erratic with regards to that in terms of losing to Arsenal and Villa. Obviously, then they beat Leicester and Southampton. So, but let's not forget we gave Leicester their only win in the last, I think, only points, to be fair, in the last 10 games or so. Palace, we gave them their first win. You can go on and on with it. And this is where I think the mentality of the players and the club and things like that really need to be addressed, because a game like this, where you really got a misfiring Cole Palmer, an attack that should. I mean, let's be honest. Nicholas Jackson's a good player, but for some reason we make him look like a world beater. That game where he scores the hat trick. And everybody thinking as he turned the corner, and then he hasn't. He's gone back to where he is. So that's probably what will happen. We'll turn up, and I remember it the game at the bridge where you had Ange screaming at the players to stop passing back, push forward, and things like that. And that was a warning sign for me. So Lord knows what type of Tottenham will turn up. I don't think it'll be a good one. It's just whether it's a bad Tottenham or an ugly Tottenham, to be fair. But I can't see anything beyond a 3 points for Chelsea. And then roll on Sunday when, knowing our luck, will probably give Southampton their first win in God knows how long.
Oh, don't. That'd be a new low, wouldn't it? Goodness sake.
But
Wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, a new low indeed. Elijah, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I felt more confident going to the Emirates than I feel going to Stamford Bridge. I'll be real, because for some reason we just can never beat these, man. And it's even we can't beat Arsenal at the Emirates, but even so, Arsenal are horrible. So I'll always feel somewhat confident the last like couple years going to the Emirates. But it doesn't matter how bad Chelsea play, how good Chelsea play, they just turn us over every time, and it's not fun. I hate losing to Chelsea. I have too many friends that are Chelsea fans, but it's the life of a Tottenham fan. You get cooked regardless. So it is what it is. And for some reason, Cole Palmer will decide, you know what, I feel like turning up. Because when we lost 4-3, he had our own fans in the stands doing the cold. Everyone in our stadium felt cold that night. For some reason, it kind of annoyed me. I'm not gonna lie. I low-key crashed out watching that on my screen. But for some reason, Chelsea just turn up. Nicholas Jackson just turns into a world-class prime Luis Suarez. For some reason, Cole Palmer just remembers that he's Cole Palmer, so he'll turn up as well. Cucurella decides to become like Capdevila. I don't get it, but the whole team turns up. So I'm not looking forward to this game at all. Hopefully we can get something, but we've been saying hopefully the whole season, and 15 times we have got nothing. So I'm not going into the game with any confidence.
No, fair enough. I mean, I was looking a few weeks back. We've lost more home games than we've won, and we've lost more away games than we've won. It's just what? That's like I think tiny club would do. We, nearly lost as many as Ipswich. Oh, honestly, it's crazy. Con, how are you feeling from a Chelsea point of view? I know that things have been difficult before the international break. Do you think it could have come at a good time for you though, the international break, a chance to reset, Maresca to work with the players that didn't go on international duty?
No, yeah, I think it has, because it's allowed some of our players to get back. Obviously, we've missed Noni, we've missed Jackson, we've missed Lavia, and all three should be back for Tottenham, so that should be good. If your name wasn't Tottenham, I wouldn't be confident. But it's just historically, Tottenham at the bridge, it should be 3 points to Chelsea, and you guys have been horrible this season. But I tell you what, there's no better time to beat us at the bridge than now, because you guys get that first goal, and I tell you, Stamford Bridge will turn toxic, because there's one. It's been brewing for a while. Every time Chelsea underperform at the bridge, you hear it. But against Tottenham of all teams, I don't think there's a more hated team inside Stamford Bridge than Tottenham. So if you guys start well and you get the first goal, you're going to hear that atmosphere there turn toxic towards Chelsea. So there's not a better time for you. But what's your injuries looking like for the game? Have you got...
I think Kulusevski's out.
Kulusevski's out.
We're in a healthy position. Yeah, there's only a couple. Trackerson.
Yeah, I don't think Romero and Van de Ven will play 90 minutes though. No. Especially Van de Ven.
And Richarlison doesn't exist.
Oh, he's not. We don't even mention my man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Another amazing signing by this club.
Because I remember the last game when you started Romero and Van de Ven, right? And
that was Chelsea, didn't it? Yeah, that fucked us.
Yeah, 20 minutes of pure genius.
Oh God, yeah.
It's Harry, we were speaking about that beforehand, weren't we? And we both said we'd be surprised to see them play.
Yeah.
And the fact they did play and then they got injured, I think that was really poor from
playing him in that
game as
for 5 months after that.
And that's the thing. It's like, if you guys go ahead,
now.
Now, if you guys go ahead at the bridge, do we have to fight back? We did at your stage. I don't know if we've got that in us right now. Like, we're very fragile. As fragile as you guys are, we're just as fragile. So this is a big game for both teams, because a win for either of us, because Chelsea desperately need this win. Desperately. If we're going to get Champions League. And I don't know about you, because your league, I think you've got like 13, 14 points from 7th, something like that, right? So I don't know how much this does for you for the league, but just for morale, it'd be massive. So I expect to see a good game. I think Chelsea will get the 3 points, but I'm not putting my house on it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, that kind of leads us on to let's go through the team news. There isn't really much to report on for both sides, but we'll go through it nonetheless. We've got here that Palmer's a doubt. Jackson Manwake should both be back, as mentioned there in Latvia by Conn. For Spurs, Kulusevski's a doubt with a foot injury. Dancer's a doubt with a hamstring injury, could make a return. Richarlison, again, another doubt for a calf injury. So all three are in contention. I think there's a big chance of Kulusevski's at least in the matchday squad for this one, likely the bench. But one person that's certainly out is Dragusin, ligament injury, isn't he? He's got all the way to wait till, at the moment, mid-October forecast to come back. So that is the team. Let's go on to lineups. People who don't listen to this podcast, what we tend to do is, we forget Ange for a moment and go, if we were the manager in his shoes, what we would do. So, Billy, if you were Ange Postecoglou, I mean, who'd want that job right now, right? Or maybe you would to turn fortunes around. What would be your starting 11?
Jeez, it's been a long time since I had to think about this, man. I can't even remember the players that we've got. So I go obviously Vicario. Do you know what? The fullbacks is always a difficult one with us because obviously you're going to have to play Spence, who's our best player, but I don't know who you're going to drop. I'm going to go against Chelsea. We've got decent wingers. I'm going to go Spence right back. I'm going to drop Porro. Obviously Van de Ven, Romero, Udogi, and then in midfield I'm going to go Bergvall, Madison, and Bentancur, and then I'm going to be a bit wild because I want to see it because I was watching the international break and I watched France under 21s. They ended up banging. I want to see Tel, Solanke, and Odegaard up front, which I know is never going to happen, but you can dream, man. I think Son is just decreasing in every single game at the moment. I think Odegaard is a really decent winger, and he showed that in the France under 21 game, and he showed it in his last couple of games for us. I know Son will definitely start against Chelsea, but I would start Tel on the left, Odegaard on the right, or vice versa, and Solanke in the middle.
Yeah, totally agree with your front three. I think
I know that's
seen
never
that
going to
for the
happen,
rest of the
but
season.
still, we can dream.
No, it's not, is it? No, I totally agree with you. Elijah, what would be your lineup compared to what you hear to Billy there? Any changes you'd make?
Only change I would make is I'd take our Bentancur and play Saar there. I think.
Yeah. I'm not very happy with our
Bergvall
midfield options, to be honest. That wasn't really impressive. Bentancur.
I hear it. But I think Saar is a better counterpart to Bergvall Madison because Saar is as Bentancur, Bergvall, and Madison, they all demand the ball, which should be a good thing. But when we actually see them play, it's not a good thing because then they're all kind of scared to go get the ball. We see, especially with Bentancur, when he's surrounded by Madison and Bergvall, a lot of times he doesn't actually go to the ball. He kind of just waits for it. I'd rather have a Saar in there because he can basically be the legs. He can make up the legs for Madison, who's not really great physically in terms of pressing and all that type of stuff. I think he's just a better counter to he basically does the dirty work for Madison and Bergvall because Bergvall likes to progress the ball, take the ball, and try and go places. Saar's not exactly that, but he is very athletic. He has a lot of endurance. He does a lot of the dirty work, covers the distance, especially for Madison. I think someone like Bentancur, he prefers to kind of just sit and try and dictate play, which sometimes work, but against Chelsea, who like to press and Bentancur won't do well, in my opinion. And Bissouma, he's an afterthought at this point in the midfield. So I'd rather take Saar because I think he just counters, he just works with Madison and Bergvall better.
Elijah, what do you reckon about fullbacks? Who are you going for? So I don't know, man. Obviously Spencer's the only one that's nailed on at this point. I don't know whether he's a better left. Sometimes it looks like he's a better left back than right back these days.
Yes, you know what it is? It's because I think in a weird way he kind of works with Son. In my opinion, I wouldn't mind if Udogi got bench for Porro. And it's just like Udogi this season frustrates me a lot because there's times where he can overlap. Yeah, there's times where he can overlap, especially when he's with Son. Like, we know Son is not what he used to be, but sometimes he can, like, Udogi, it's almost like he forgot that he can drive with the ball. And there's times where he can just make that overlapping run and he can just go. But he'll either pass it inside and just kill off the counter-attack, or he would just stop and just wait and pass the ball back. For some reason, it's like he's just scared to make that overlapping run, which makes no sense unless the manager's telling him to invert all the time or to pass the ball inside all the time. It's almost like he's scared to overlap anymore, and that's really frustrated me this season because at least Porro will sometimes make that overlapping run, And we see a lot of times that he can just whip a cross in out of nowhere. You see whipping a cross in against Newcastle and against Leicester. He whips crosses into Solanke and Richarlison. Obviously, we're going to have Solanke up top, so it'd be good to have Porro, who could sometimes just get a goal out of nothing. So Udogie is, if anything, is regressed attackingly and defensively. So even though Porro doesn't offer much defensively at all, at least he's almost like a creative outlet. He's like a wild card, because you never know when he could just create any type of goal scoring opportunity, whether it's through a deflected shot. We've seen that a couple times, but he's like a wild card. He just causes mayhem. That we don't know what he's thinking, because sometimes he plays like he doesn't think. He just acts. I feel like there's almost too much overthinking from Udogie at times, which will really cost the team. So I wouldn't even mind seeing Spencer left back and seeing Udogie dropped and Porro play at right back.
Interesting. Cheers, guys. Con, you're Enzo Maresca for a minute. What would your Chelsea lineup be?
My lineup would be what I think we're going to put out, or what I would want to put out.
What you would do?
Okay, what I would do. Sanchez or Jorgensen. We're not blessed with great keepers, but I'd probably go with Jorgensen, because Sanchez would probably give you a free opportunity. Right back, I'll go Reece James. Centre halves, I'd go for Fana and Colwill. Left back, I'd go Cucurella. I'd probably want to dominate the game, so I'd play all three of Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo. Obviously, if Cole Palmer's not fit, but if Cole Palmer's fit, I'd probably take out Lavia and play Enzo, Caicedo, and Palmer. On the right, I'd have Noni, up top Jackson, and on the left, Pedro Neto. I think because if you guys do, play Jed Spence at left back, I think it's good. Like Pedro Porro, I don't rate at all. I think he's all right going forward, but he's so bad defensively. And I think whatever Chelsea wing is up against him is going to have an easy night, because defensively he's terrible. Every time I watch Tottenham, I laugh because he gets cooked by every winger known to man. I think even Tamworth, he got cooked at one point. So
yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's not very good defensively. I think Udogie and Spence are your best fullback pairing.
Con, can I ask you a question as well? Like, because
Sure.
Neto was like top of most fans and allegedly top of Ange's on my wish list as well. But I see quite a lot of your fans slating him online. How's he been this season, would you say?
He's not been great, I'll be honest. Lately, he's been playing through the middle because obviously we've had no striker. But what Neto really craves is a box-dominant striker, right? If he went to Tottenham, with how you guys playing with Solanke, I think he would have done very well. But whereas we don't really have that box presence, like Jackson isn't an in-the-box striker, I think he misses that because his deliveries are fantastic.
I do think he's the profile that we badly lack at the moment, to be honest, yeah.
Well, when I heard that we got him over you, I wasn't shocked because I knew...
Apparently we offered Oliver Skip in the deal.
There's a proper Tottenham thing to do, but I thought we would have suited you very well. I think he's the right profile you needed, but for some reason, you still have Timo Werner at your club, which would drive me crazy anytime. Like every time I see him play for Spurs now, I laugh because I remember where I was when watching Timo Werner play for me. It's not a pretty sight, so I do feel for you.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's not go down there.
I don't think we'll be seeing him on Thursday, to be honest. Let's be real about that. I don't think
we'll be seeing him, and I don't think we'll be seeing Basuma.
I really hope we do see Timo Werner, to be honest. I really do.
You can have him if you like. Let's go on to score prediction. Billy, kick us off.
Do you know what? I don't think we're going to get like slapped. I think it's just going to be I think it'll be like the Fulham game, just like an absolutely routine win for Chelsea that we don't get to compete much in, and just 2-0 loss for us. I don't think we're going to get absolutely smashed because I don't think this after this long a break. I don't think teams are going to be particularly firing. They'll probably take a couple of games to get back into it. It's been a bit of a weird international break because of the FA Cup, where it's just felt like ages since the Premier League game again. So I think it'll be really similar to the Fulham game: 0-0 at half-time, 2-0 full-time.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I totally agree with all of you that only the Europa League matters, but I think the London derbies, you want to do well. Of course, you want to win every game, but London derbies,
it doesn't
a little
matter.
bit more.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're gaslit as fans because it doesn't matter to the club at the moment, but it matters to the fans still. And like Elijah, I have a lot of my best mates are Chelsea fans. For me, Chelsea are just as much of a rival as Arsenal are. I think there is such an intense rivalry there. It goes back decades of serious hooliganism and violence that it's a massive game, but it's just not one that we ever compete in, to be honest.
100%. Thank you very much. Justin, score prediction.
And this is even if Tottenham do turn up, I mean, I'd probably go with 3-1 Chelsea. I just think, as much as we've said how unpredictable Chelsea can be at the moment, as we've seen in recent seasons, they turn up. And when we had the last two Battle of the Bridges, the one with Poch, the one with Conte and Tuchel, we don't seem to be seeing that sort of fight in us. So I think we might score first, surprisingly, but then I think we'll just crumble from that point onwards in a Spursy fashion. And yeah, I think it'd be 3-1.
3-1 Chelsea. Sad on it. We just go into every game expected to lose. Now I think large amount of it is our record at Stamford Bridge, but it just sums up at the moment. So thank you, Elijah. Do you reckon another loss as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I'm gonna go with 4-2 to Chelsea. I do see us scoring goals because we always tend to score goals. It's just a thing of we don't win. That's really the issue, and Chelsea's defense is just not good at all, really. So I see us scoring a couple goals. Even if we go like a goal up, I wouldn't be surprised. But then Chelsea will end up coming back. But Chelsea will just score because that's what they do against us. But we'll nab a couple goals, in my opinion. So I'll go to 4-2.
4-2. Okay, nice. 6 goals in the game. It's a lot. Conn, what do you reckon? You going for Chelsea win as well, I assume?
I think I kind of have to, just because of the record between us. But I'm going to go with a 3-2. Now, I think there's going to be goals just because defensively, I think we're both crap. I think we both play quite high. So I can see goals. I think we might just edge it. But honestly, if it turns out it's 3-2 Tottenham, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I'm going 3-2 Chelsea.
3-2 Chelsea. You stole my score. I was going to go 3-2 because I totally agree with you. Both teams' defence are just shocking, and I just don't think, because it's Stamford Bridge, I don't think we get anything. I think put up a really good fight and play well, but no, I like get nothing. But we'll have to see what the game brings. It should be interesting nonetheless, but I'm sure, I mean, Conn, you can relate as well. Maybe not the nicest game to look forward to. Obviously, your record's a lot better, but, you just never know with these kind of derbies, these rivalries, what can happen. It adds that nervous element, that factor into the game, but it is all about the Europa League for Spurs this season. But I think that kind of wraps us up nicely for this week's episode of the podcast. Finally, not a therapy session. That's what you get when Spurs don't play. But massive thanks to my panel this evening. Let's go through and see where you can find them across social media. Billy, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you? And of course, Change for Tottenham.
Don't worry about social media. Just find me on Sunday in the protest, please, is what I ask anyone listening. This is a big chance now, especially with today's news. We need to make a stand against this ownership. So hopefully I'll see everyone on Sunday. And thanks to everyone. It's been nice to meet everyone as well tonight. It's been a good show. Thank you, man.
No worries. Thanks so much, as always. Justin, thank you very much. Actually finished before 9 p.m. UK time on YouTube for you. And so there you go. It's a rare one. You don't have to jump early. Don't have to get away from talking Tottenham. So apologies for that part. Where can people find you, though?
Yeah, I mean, look, I unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, I struggle to get up to London, to get to the, and I'd love to be up there for the protest, because I think the more people that we can get there, I think the work the Billie T and everybody is doing, is spectacular. And as they've probably seen, I'm pretty much one of the biggest fanboys. Every time there goes something out, I'll retweet it because I'm just desperate, to do whatever I can to try and get that message out there. Because
you need your Kulusevski t-shirt as well.
Yeah. As I said, don't worry, I'll probably be wearing that on Sunday. I'm gonna have my flag and all of that. I just need to get the scarf and everything, because you guys are doing an amazing job. It's something that has been needed for so long. So I will be on Twitter, just pumping out any content that the Change for Tottenham have, because you know, especially after today and what we've been putting up with, to turn around and have it slapped across our face that we should be grateful for what we have, I think it's just downright disgusting. So yeah, I'll be on there. Just you know, if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to talk to me about, I'll be more than happy to follow back on and come back on those sort of things. But yeah, again, Harry, not only thank you for having me on, but thank you for having me on without there being a loss. You know, to be fair, that is a nice feeling. It does feel a bit weird, and we're finishing before 9. You know, if you'd have told me that Ange's going to win the Europa League, you know, and we did, I'd be like, wow, I didn't realise that good things come in threes. But no, thank you so much for having us on.
You never know. No, thanks so much for coming on, Justin. The perfect night indeed. Elijah, thanks so much for coming on your debut. I think you absolutely smashed it out of the park. So well done to you. Where can people find
Appreciate
you
it.
and the work that you do on social media?
I'm too much of E on YouTube, man. I'm one of the most unserious content creators you'll probably find in the Tottenham YouTube sphere. I thought I'd be a bit more chill, a bit more relaxed, but trust me, if you ever watch one of my streams, I'm a lot more animated than this. But I'm obviously been watching Harry for a while. I think I spoke to Harry first like a few months ago, and we've just been following each other ever since. So yeah, I've always been a fan, always been watching in the background, and was pretty happy when you first gave me my introduction to your channel on the last video you did about Ange and the questions. I was stoked to be part of that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you gave me the opportunity. I appreciate it. It was glad chopping it up with everyone else on the panel, and hopefully we'll be back to do this again soon.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. It's great to have you involved in that video as well. So thanks so much. Conn, thank you for coming on. I think your debut on the podcast, I mean, it certainly won't be your last. And it's great to always do stuff with you. I'm sure we'll do something as well before Thursday and after. Where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, just on Twitter, Conn CFC. I also do playbacks as well, Chelsea related. So I don't know how much you Spurs guys would probably want to follow that. But just a quick note as well to add, fans, not consumers. So more power to you for your protest when that happens. I think, you know, each year football feels like it's slowly going more away from the fans. So it's nice to see the fans fighting back. So more power to you guys, man.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much. Yeah, big up panel. Thank you to everyone who's listened. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Reminder, it's available on all major podcast platforms, so please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Elijah mentioned it there. I'm working on a big YouTube video at the moment. Part 1 is out, getting people's thoughts ahead of the upcoming summer transfer window and also on Ange Postecoglou's future. So part 1 is out. It's been out a couple of days, and part 2 is in the pipeline. It will be out in the next 24 hours, which includes the likes of Billie T, Ricky Saxon, Last Word on Spurs, Holly Agrambar. So it's a big video. Part 2 is definitely bigger. So please do check it out, because part 1 was incredible and got amazing people involved. So yeah, just getting fans' thoughts, content creators' thoughts, journalists, and yeah, across the 2 videos, we've got so many amazing people involved. So if you can check that out, it'd be fantastic. But also do check these guys out as well across all socials. So thank you very much. A massive come on you Spurs. Hopefully next time you're hearing from me, we'll be discussing a rare win at Stamford Bridge. Surely that's asking for too much.